Let's solve the following radical equation. When it comes to solving radical equations, rule of thumb, get one radical on one side, one radical on the other side, get ready to square each side. The whole point is you want to isolate the radicals and continue to square those until you get rid of the radicals completely. Now, I have two radicals sitting on the left-hand side of this equation here, so I want to take one of them, move it over to the right. So this negative one here, I'm going to plus that to the other side so that I get this square root of 2x plus 3 on the left-hand side is equal to, drop down the 1, plus square root of x plus 1 on the right-hand side. That's about as isolated as I can get this problem. There's no way for me to really get rid of that 1. So, next step, square both sides. Left-hand side, a radical raised to the second power is going to cancel out. Those are opposites of each other. So square root and square cancel, leaving us with 2x plus 3. Now on the right-hand side over here, I'm going to write this out over here, this 1 plus square root of x plus 1 squared. That means we're taking 1 plus the square root of x plus 1 times 1 plus the square root of x plus 1. So I'm going to break down this multiplication real quickly here. I'm just going to distribute it. 1 times the second one. 1 times 1 is 1. 1 times the square root of x plus 1 is the square root of x plus 1. Now distribute the square root of x plus 1 here. Square root of x plus 1 times 1 is the square root of x plus 1. Again, 1 times anything is that anything. And then last multiplication here, square root of x plus 1 times square root of x plus 1 is x plus 1. Keep in mind, the same radical times the same radical is just equal to the radicand. So like square root of 10 times square root of 10 is a 10. So square root of x plus 1 times square root of x plus 1 is just an x plus 1. So let's clean this up just a little bit here. Let's combine some like terms. I only have one regular x there, so I'm going to drop that down. 1 plus 1 is a 2. And then I have square root of x plus 1 plus square root of x plus 1. The math for this is the same thing as doing like x plus x. 1x plus 1x is 2x. All right? So 1 square roots of x plus 1 plus 1 square roots of x plus 1 is 2 square roots of x plus 1. This is what the right-hand side here equals. 1 plus the square root of x plus 1 squared is equal to this. So I'm going to write that in over here. X plus 2 plus 2 square roots of x plus 1. Now we need to keep solving this equation here. Do note that we still have a radical in the problem. And if you still have a radical in the problem, you're not done squaring. But we kind of need to start from the beginning and isolate the radical, get it as much by itself as possible. Which for us means, let's move this x over. We're going to join it with the x's over here. And let's move this 2 over. We're going to get rid of that so that we're left with our radical part here. So on the right-hand side, those are going to cancel. 2x minus x is an x. 3 minus 2 is a 1. And that is going to equal 2 times the square root of x plus 1. We got our radical isolated. We don't need to worry about dividing by the 2. That'll cancel it on the right, but we're just going to be left with a fraction on the left, and we don't want that. So let's leave it like this as it is. In order to get rid of that radical, we need to square both sides. Okay? On the left-hand side, this is just x plus 1 times x plus 1. Multiply that out. When you do so, you get x squared plus 2x plus 1 is equal to, when you square this right-hand side, okay, keep in mind this is the multiplication that we are doing here. Okay, this is all one term. So multiply the number times the number, radical times the radical is how that works. 2 times 2 is 4. Square root of x plus 1 times square root of x plus 1. Again, remember the same square root times the same square root is what's underneath the radical. So it's just x plus 1. Drop that down. All right, so we have 4 times that x plus 1. Distribute that. When we distribute that, you get 4x plus 4. That's what this right-hand side over here equals. At this point here, we no longer have a radical, which is exactly what we want. We finally got rid of the radical, so now we can look at other methods in solving this problem. Taking a look at what I have here, I do see I have this squared term. If you have a squared term in your problem, that tells you this is a quadratic equation. Think about how you solve quadratic equations. In my opinion, you should always try and factor a quadratic equation first. Anytime I'm left with a quadratic equation, first thing I'm going to do, get everything over to one side so that it's in proper quadratic form first off. All right, so subtract the 4x, subtract the 4 to get x squared minus 2x minus 3. This is the quadratic equation that I need to finish solving here to get my solution for this problem. So let's try and factor this and see if it does factor. X squared gives us x times x. Factors of 3 are 1 times of 3. So let's see if our signs and our numbers work here. Keep in mind, whatever sign the middle term has, it goes with the bigger number. If your back number is negative, these have to have different signs, so this should be a plus. So let's see, positive 1 times negative 3 is a negative 3. Positive 1 minus 3, 1 minus 3 is a negative 2. So signs and numbers do check out here, which means I can continue with the zero factor property, split these up, set these each equal to 0, and solve. So that means x is equal to a negative 1, and x is equal to a 3.